What's up, everybody? Welcome to Planet-Pepe. Here's the story of my first time playing live on stage. I'm 30 now. I had just turned 20. It was either 24 or I just turned 25. And I had heard through a friend about this open mic night that this bar had done. And at the time, I'd never, I've played, with friends before, maybe like while other roommates were off doing something, playing a video game, but I've never played really in front of like a crowd before. But I was feeling, I kind of wanted to do it. And at the time, I only had one song, which was Concession Speech, which I played before, which was the I hate to say it's true, I have little left to lose. That one. And I was like, you know what, I'm gonna go play it and see, what the audience reaction is. So I drive down there. This is in a different town. This is when I still lived in New Jersey. So this is a different town. It was maybe like 3 towns over. It was like a 25, 30-minute drive. So I get there and I'm feeling confident. I'm a people person in a lot of ways. So playing, crowds don't really freak me out. And I had confidence in my song. It's not like I was playing a cover or anything like that. This was my song and I've been playing it. I had it for about 2 years. At the time, again, it was the only song I had. So I had full confidence in myself to play it, and just, whether the audience didn't like it or not, I knew I could play it good in the way I wanted to play it. I wouldn't screw up. So I get there, and there's there's actually a decent amount of people. Now, it was like a bar, where people were drinking, and then there were some seats where people could listen to the band. So I get there and I put my name on the list, and I'm like 4 spots ahead of, there's 4 people ahead of me, and then some people showed up, and it's maybe around 9 o'clock at night. So I'm listening to some of these songs, and some people played covers, and I'm like, I wasn't, they're fine, but they're not, I could play with them, or at least my song is as good as theirs in some ways. And then once it got up to all right, Pepe, you're next. I kind of started to get a little jittery. So I walk up stage, and at this point I didn't have Stormcloud. I had a guitar called Big Red, which was my first guitar I ever owned. The first guitar I ever bought from a music store. And it was just like this, only it was, instead of black, it was like this with the fade out red. So I called them Big Red. And it was an acoustic electric. It was an LTD. So it was basically the same as this guitar. So I start walking up stage, and I got my guitar case, and I put it down, and it's a big stage. It's not really big stage, which kind of threw me off. I was kind of I had all this space, and it was just me up there. I felt kind of a little naked at first. I was a little taken back. So I'm like, all right. So I get up there, and I take the guitar to the guitar case, and there's the amp, and I realized damn, I don't know how to work this amp. I don't really know too much about amps in general, which was kind of the first curveball, where I was kind of damn, I want it to be on clean, because maybe I had a small little amp in my basement that I used, but it was so basic. It was a 3 knob little amplifier. This thing was like a 20 knobs everywhere, and I'm like, oh God, I don't know what to, how do I even work this thing? So I was like, I'm just gonna leave it alone. I tried to find the clean button, I couldn't. So at this point, I'm looking at the thing, and I look like such an amateur up there. I'm like, all right, I gotta. There's people waiting behind me. I just gotta, figure this out. So I plugged the jack into my guitar, and my guitar, the guitar jack, the battery in Big Red was dead, and I didn't realize that, because I guess I barely ever used the amp, and I was like, oh my God, I can't play. So I was like, oh man. Luckily enough, the guy, he was nice enough to lend me his guitar, which was working. He's the guy who played before me, and I was kind of he could tell something was off. He was kind of off to the side, and he's like, oh man, that sucks, man. Here, just use my guitar. And it was so nice of him to lend me the guitar. But it was another curveball where I'm like, now I'm not using my guitar, I'm using someone else's guitar, which sounds trivial, but it really is true. It is kind of one of those things where it's just kind of I know it's the same notes, and it's the same frets, and it's the same thing, but you're so used to your guitar. Now I gotta play the song with a guitar I've never used before. And it was someone else's guitar. I had to be extra careful with it because I didn't want to do anything. Also, too, what threw me off was there was no seat, and I'm used to sitting and playing. Well, let's put it this way: I'm used to, not that that matters, but I wasn't used to the strap on, to the strap. So I had to adjust his strap on live on stage, and I'm like, oh man, like I had to be extra careful because I rarely use a strap, and I'm like, I don't want to what if I drop the guitar and like break his guitar or something? It would be terrible. So I asked him to adjust it, and like he did. I had to find the right, because I mean, if it's here or here, like you kind of have to get comfortable with that length. Ow. So that really threw me off too. And at this point, I'm up on stage for about a solid 3-4 minutes without playing my song. And like, not that people cared, because half the people at the bar were just kind of drinking, and we're at a bar, and very few people were actually listening. I mean, everyone would listen at that point, whether they wanted to or not, because you know, it's an open mic night and you're playing and you're gonna hear it. You can't shut it off. But I was like, all right, I gotta get started here. So I walk up to the microphone and I say, this song is Concession Speech. They're like, I hate to say it's true. And I start looking around, and I noticed that there were people at the bar who were just having these conversations. And I wasn't offended. I mean, they're at a bar. I mean, like, but I got self-conscious in the sense where I'm like, maybe these people at this bar didn't know it was open mic night, and they're kind of just annoyed at the fact that they have to listen to live music while they're having a conversation. Like, what if I overpower them where they can't hear each other? So I kind of started to feel self-conscious about that, not about my ability to play, but about the mere fact that I was playing when maybe they just wanted to have a drink with their friends, and like I'm like blasting music and they can't hear me, or I mean they can't hear themselves talk. So I played very softly, and I didn't know, I never sang into a microphone before, right? So I every time I did, it was either on my phone, or like we would just prop up the microphone foam in the amp, like whenever I would play with Furnace, or you know, like Dan on drums or something. But this was a solo act, so I kind of really played softly, and I didn't know how to really use my voice. And apparently the first time I played the song, they couldn't hear me, and I played the whole song, and they heard the guitar, because it was in the amp. So they heard that, but I'm singing and they're not hearing me. And I didn't know this, so I played the whole song. And then the guy who gave me the guitar, he's off to the side, and I finish, and I get like an applause, but I kind of noticed people were looking at me, and he goes, dude, come here. And I'm like, what? He's like, you got to play that again. And I'm like, at first I was like, oh, because it was really good. He's like, no one could hear you. And I'm like, no. He's like, you got to really go up to the microphone and sing. Like, you were too far away. You were like miming it. At this point, I was humiliated. I was just like, oh no, you've got to be kidding me. And I played it off. I was like, all right, you know what? I went up to the microphone and I said, like, look guys, I'm sorry, this is my first time playing live. Do you mind if I play it again? And I kind of got like, yeah, come on. So they were kind of, the people listening were kind of like, come on kid, I was like 24. And it was a little bit of an older crowd, not older, but maybe they were like in their 30s or something like that. So at this point I get up to the microphone, and I make sure that like it was amplifying. And I'm looking back, the first time my voice was not amplifying. I was trying to play too soft. So I play it for the second time, same riff, and I'm singing a little loud, and it's a good performance. I think the second, as humiliated as I was, the second performance was good. Another thing that threw me off was the fact that I made a video a while back on why musicians sweat. And people who don't play instruments think, or guitar think, oh, it's to look cool. Like, look at me with my, kind of thing. Like, look like you're kind of trying to be like, have swagger or something. And which I thought too before I started playing. It's really about keeping a rhythm. So it's like, no matter what rhythm you're playing, it's like 1, 2, 1, 2. It's it keeps like an internal rhythm. in your body and in your mind. So it's just like no matter what you're playing, it's like no 1, 2, 1. So it's not to look cool. You can't really do that when you're speaking into a microphone or when you're talking into a microphone, because then it would be like it's like it would come in and out. So I had to play it stiff. Maybe there's a way to do that, and I just didn't know it at the time, like a way to make it work. So I was just kind of standing there like, make the it's true, and it kind of threw me off. I still played it fine, I think, but like it kind of threw me off. So that was another curveball. Anyway, I played the song. I got off. I got an applause, which I'm pretty sure was just a polite applause. No one's gonna boo you at an open mic night. I mean, come on. But they get the applause, okay, and I get off stage. I give the guy his guitar back. I thank him, like, dude, thank you so much. I'm so sorry about all that. This is my first time. He's like, don't worry about it. He was older than me. He was like clear, easy 40. But he was a cool guy. Here's another thing that really bothered me, that threw me off. As far as it wasn't this guy, someone else I almost forgot this. So, I'm playing the song the second time, right? When people can actually hear me, and they could hear me the second time because I could hear my own voice echo throughout. So I was like, okay, that people can hear me. There was a guy, I forgot to mention this earlier. There was a guy, one more quick antidote, then I'll end the video. So there was a guy who I had met while I was waiting. Maybe there was like 1, 2 musicians ahead of me. And he wasn't the owner of the bar, but he was saying how this open mic night has like a Facebook page. Now I don't have social media. I have no social media. I guess like I don't have Twitter, Facebook. I don't have Twitter, whatever. I don't know. I don't even know really what social medias are. Didn't have them back then. Don't have them now. I guess I don't even know if YouTube can be called social media-ish, I guess. But this is the only thing I have close to social media. Anyway, so he was telling me, yeah, like we have a Facebook page and like we promote this stuff, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, oh, that's cool. And he was sitting in the crowd. And when I'm halfway through the song on my second time, I noticed that he kind of comes up closer to the stage, gets out of his chair, and he starts taking pictures of me. And he started just taking, I don't know if it was a video or pictures, and I noticed this, and I was kind of, I don't know if it's because I don't have social media, I was taken aback. I'm like, dude, I just met you, and you're taking pictures of me? Like it really kind of weirded me out, and later, as I was going, so that kind of threw me, so I had to like get past that, and I'm like, I can't stop playing the song and be like, put the camera down, so that really kind of messed with me. Anyway, so that was another, curveball. So I get off stage, and later on he's like, oh yeah, it was for our Facebook page, because like we have this thing, and I'm like, I almost wanted to tell him like, yeah, don't put that on there. I didn't really care, but I wish he at least would have told me beforehand or asked me like, can I take pictures of you up on stage? Because he just started, and he was like smiling while he was doing it. I'm like, are you some pervert or something? Like, I don't even know what's going on. Are you gonna keep these for later tonight? I don't know what's going on. So anyway, the guy who lent me the guitar, at this point I'm like, I need a drink. This is such a weird experience. This did not go. I thought I would just get up there, play the song, get an applause, and go. There was like a whole lot of other extra minutia in there. So I was so kind of embarrassed that I was like, oh man, thanks for the, like, so I was like, I need a drink. And the guy offered me it. He's like, oh man, I could buy you a drink. And I was just so uncomfortable being in the place that I had just played and basically embarrassed myself at in a lot of ways, and just felt a little awkward and uncomfortable. And I was like, thanks man, but I gotta go. So I literally picked up Big Red. I gave him his guitar back, picked up Big Red, and just basically left, like right after my song, which was kind of maybe a jerk move. I probably should have stayed for it to like listen to another musician or two. I think that might have been common courtesy. But I just drove back to my hometown, went to, ironically, a bar called Big Heads, or we called it Dickheads. And I just went right up to the bartender who I knew. Her name was Allison. I was like, can I get 2 shots of Jack Daniels? Just paid. All right, good night. I'm going home. I just drove. The bar was like down the road from my house, and I left. Anyway, that was my first my open mic or experience playing on stage. So there were a lot of curveballs that I didn't expect, and it shows what an amateur I was, and in a lot of ways still am. I have played on stage before, and it's gotten better because now I have more than one song. I went from one to a grand total of like 7 in 5 years. I'm such a good artist. I suck. Anyway, yeah, I hope you all enjoyed this story, and Planet-Pepe, everyone. All right, peace. Bye.